Hi, this is Dr. Kimberley Linert, and you're listening to Incredible Life Creator Podcast. My guest today is Renee Reisch. Renee Reisch has cultivated and inspired individuals and teams for over a decade. You immediately feel her energy when she enters a room. After over 25 years working in corporate America, Renee decided it was time to hang up the corporate ladder. She started her professional training and speaking as an instructor at WHW, Women Helping Women, a nonprofit organization where she donated her time helping the unemployed and underemployed find and keep their jobs. Renee has received numerous awards over the years for bringing her teams to the #1 position. Both her years and experience in the corporate world have taught her that in order to move the bar and increase profit, you must first invest in people. After suffering a devastating illness that took away her voice, then a few years later, the loss of her best friend and then father, Renee decided to follow their example to never give up. Now that legacy is how Renee has chosen to live her life and help others, showing them that just when you feel life is closing in on you, there is always a way out. Today, Renee is a 4-time #1 international best-selling author for Finding Your Voice, Unlock Your Chains, and Unleash Your Greatness. She is a speaker, ambassador for Camo Buddies for Life, founding member of Be Connected, influencer, and transformational coach. Using her V.O.I.C.E Blueprint, she works with women struggling with limiting beliefs so they can release their excess baggage and go from feeling stuck to unstoppable, gaining more confidence, clarity, and courage. Welcome to the podcast, Renee.
Thank you so much for having me, Kimberly. I greatly appreciate it. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, so we had a chance to talk a little bit before we started here, and you are just a kindred spirit, and I'm just so excited to have you on the podcast. So thank you.
Thank you so much. We definitely are a kindred spirit. I feel that as well.
Yeah, so just so other people can get to know you, why don't you tell us about you, where you started out and this journey that you took from corporate to doing what you're doing now?
Well, I'm from New Jersey originally, born in New York, and lived in New Jersey about 16 and a half years and moved to Southern California, which is where I now reside. And I worked in corporate America for over 25 years with one company, probably over 35 in corporate altogether. And while I was in retail, it was 2013, and this is where this part of my journey began. Unbeknownst to me, I didn't realize it at the time. I was just kind of going through life and didn't understand what was really happening. But what did happen is I had an illness. It's called viral pharyngitis. If you look it up, it's like this really bad sore throat. But what happened to me is that it took away my ability to speak. So I had one sore that landed in the middle of my throat. And I remember going to urgent care and telling the doctor there that I felt like there was like this one sore. And it's kind of an odd thing to say. People usually say they have a sore throat, not I feel like there's a sore in my throat. I, of course, said I feel like there's a sore in my throat. And she said, you're absolutely right. There is. It's like in the middle of your throat. So that's exactly where I felt it. Anyway, what happened after that is she sent me home after doing a rapid strep test to make sure that I didn't have strep and what this was. And there was no strep. There was a low-grade fever because there was an infection. I went home the next day. When I woke up, I was like, that one sore just exploded. My best friend, who's now one of my angels in heaven with my father, drove me back to urgent care. And the same doctor was there, and she said, you need to take her to the ER now. And I said, well, how many sores are there? And she wouldn't tell me. She needs to get to the ER now. So that kind of told me there was a lot and it was pretty bad, and she couldn't help me. I needed, different kind of care. So we did go to the ER, and it was, the ER is never a short visit. They took all sorts of tests, and it was this virus, and they tested me for some things that I couldn't even believe because they didn't know, like they hadn't seen, obviously, they probably hadn't seen anything like this in a long time where somebody's throat is just riddled with sores. Bottom line, I was then quarantined for the next 4 months. I know as we do this interview, and we're now in December of 2020, we're under this pandemic. Well, before self-quarantining became a thing, I was quarantined. And I remember laying on that gurney in the ER asking the doctor if I was contagious. He goes, "You're highly contagious. You can't be with the public." That to me was just like taking the air out of an inflated balloon. Because the things I love most in life are connecting with people and speaking. I was unable to do either. So to know that you're highly contagious, you can't be with the public, it was like this jail cell slammed down upon me, and I had no way out. It was not only not being with the public, but it was a lot of different kinds of pains that I was going through. It was physical pain because I couldn't eat, I couldn't drink, and I couldn't swallow. That pain was on a 1 to 10, I would say it was 1,000. If you can think of fire being lit to your throat, or razor blades going down your throat, or steak knives, whatever that sharpest object, you can envision what that might feel like. That's the pain that I can equate this to, because it was so intense. That was the physical pain. The emotional pain was because I couldn't be with my loved ones. I couldn't speak. To not be able to speak when you're so used to speaking, that kind of played a part of me. And then it was the mental pain. Mental pain was because doctors couldn't help me. The place you go to for help couldn't help you. The people you turn to heal you couldn't heal me. So there's your physical, your emotional, and your mental. It was a lot of anguish. I had fallen into a depression because of that. So looking at four walls, not knowing if I would ever speak again, not knowing if I would ever be able to see my loved ones again, and not knowing how this would end and if it would end, because they had no answer for me. So all I did was look at four walls and get really depressed and more depressed day after day. And that lasted, it was close to 4 months of sitting in that hell. It's like stewing in your own hell is what it was. There was no pretty way to say it. It was a very devastating time, needless to say. So that went on for a long time. During that time, my best friend, who, as I said, is my angel in heaven, she would come by my apartment, and I kept a kosher home at the time. So she would make kosher chicken. She would go to the market and try to buy things like applesauce or Gatorade, something that she thought I could swallow, even though I couldn't swallow anything. The fact that she went and made me food that I was withering away. I said, I couldn't eat or drink or swallow. There was nothing. The last thing I wanted to do was think about eating a meal, or even hunger was not something that was present because I was in so much pain. The pain overtook anything. So I was getting, withering away from lack of nutrients. And at the time, I really didn't care because the pain was so great. I didn't really want to be here anymore. And you kind of want God to take you home because you don't know how you're going to get better, and you don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. It's not like doctors gave me hope and said, well, if you take this and, after 10 days, you should start seeing an improvement. I had no hope to hang on to. The fact that I had a best friend that cared so much for me and who was there for me. She came up my stairs. I remember she had to wear a mask. As I said, it's very reminiscent of, what's happening today, very prevalent of what's going on today, is that I tried to muster down what she brought to me, because I knew that her love for me was greater than this pain that was intense. That love was greater because she cared so much, and she saw that I couldn't take care of myself, and she knew that she couldn't stay to take care of me, but it wasn't what she couldn't do, it was what she could do. And that was my glimmer of hope. And that was my knowing that somebody cared that much about me. I needed to start caring about me too. And what I realized when I started getting better, it took about a year, Kimberly, to get my voice back. I had to go through some intense vocal coaching. One of the trips to a specialist I was told to see, I had like 19 vials of blood drawn, nothing was coming up. Yet this whole time, nothing was showing. They were trying to figure out how could we fix her? There was nothing to fix. It was a gift of time that I needed to heal. And that was something the doctors could not give me. It was something that, whatever your listeners believe, God, source, universe, that was something I needed in my life, because I wasn't slowing down, and everybody, including my best friends, said slow down, and I didn't. Mm-hmm. The healing process began when I went to a specialist to see if there was permanent damage. And that was a really scary trip. And they stuck this tube down my throat. And I was, again, sitting there really, really scared, because they could say, this is it. There's scar tissue and you're never going to talk again. And I didn't know what was going to come out of their mouth, but I could still hear. I just couldn't speak. And they said, it's not permanent. And I knew that day that I found out it wasn't permanent damage, that there was going to be a road to recovery. And I was going to be on that road to recovery. And it took close to a year and a lot of vocal coaching from a therapist to get my voice back. Something I want to share with your listeners, and I hope this resonates and falls on the ears it needs to fall upon. That years later, and it was a good 4 years later, I realized I had not just lost my voice physically. In fact, I lost it metaphorically in life, and it manifested physically in my health. I feel this very strongly because I didn't stand up for myself. I didn't speak up for myself. I became a doormat and a people pleaser because I didn't want to ever rock the apple cart. So I felt that if I just went along with what everybody else wanted, there would be no friction, and I would never be the cause of any friction. So if I kept quiet, everybody would be happy. If I didn't speak up, who was the one that wasn't happy? It was me. So I realized the power of my voice, not when it was taken away, it took years later, but knowing that I have a voice and how to really use it to impact others in a positive way. There's always takeaways in life and lessons to be learned, and many times we don't learn our lessons. And the same thing presents itself over and over again until we do, and maybe in different ways. And we were talking a little bit about that before we got on the podcast. This was a pretty powerful punch to be taken out of life as you know it, and to not be able to speak or be with your loved ones or communicate. 2013, it wasn't like we were doing FaceTiming and Zoom calls. It wasn't. And quite frankly, even if we were, I wouldn't have wanted to, because I was in such pain. I remember when I went to sleep, I wanted to stay asleep. I remember when I woke up, I want to go back to bed. I look forward to going back to sleep because I want to get out of the pain. The thing that that happened is that there were times when I woke up in the middle of the night because I must have swallowed, and I'd be crying because the pain was so great. So the question I would pose to those listening, what kind of pain are you enduring? And why are you allowing that? And where is the physical pain showing up in your life? And that is most likely something that is happening in your life and showing up somewhere in your health. And when we don't address it, it keeps showing up. This was a long journey and a lot of self-introspection and realizing my piece, my part in life is to serve others. And I say we have these two things on either side of our face. It's called ears. They're here to listen, and one mouth in which to speak. So we can listen more intently with a kinder heart and listen to other people's pains and be there to love and support them. And this world isn't just about us, but how we can impart our words on others and impact others' lives.
Beautiful. That is so true. And actually, there's a book that I recommend to people talking about what you're talking about as far as physical things showing up from emotional issues. The book is called Feelings Buried Alive Never Die. It's been around for years and years. And at the back of the book there's this little, I guess, glossary or whatever. And it goes through every, at least in general, everything that could be going wrong in different parts of the body. And then under it, for example, if you look under lower back, it would list 4 or 5 things emotional things that could be causing lower back pain. A lot of times not feeling supported, pain where money is concerned, finances, things like that. So it goes through, and what you do is you read the list and you see which one resonates with you. And just by becoming aware of it, a lot of times some of that pain will actually go away from that part of the body just by being aware of it consciously.
That is beautiful. I just wrote that down. Feelings buried alive never die. That is, I'm going to definitely look that up and get that.
Yeah.
Because I totally believe that. That's a great recommendation. And speaking about books, here's a segue. I also ended up writing my own. And it's called Finding Your Voice, Unlock Your Chains, and Unleash Your Greatness. It's on Amazon. It's on Barnes & Noble. It's on Goodreads. It's registered with the Library of Congress. It's very impactful. It's a very impactful book. I have an ebook as well as the book. I always suggest listeners to get the physical book if they're able to. And the reason being is because after each chapter, I have a takeaway section. And I pose questions to the reader. And I actually leave like sometimes 3 or 4 pages for them to write their answers down, because I really believe in the power of the pen, and what comes up will come out. And sometimes it seems like the pen takes a life of its own, because as you start writing, and I know because I journal, when I start writing, other things start coming through. I'm like, wow, that was powerful. Something that I wasn't even thinking when I sat down. I just I keep gratitude journal, and then I'll write down some things that happened in the day, and then it will take on like another leg, it'll go like another part of something that will make me something else. And it's really important to write things down, because when you read this book, it really will also be able, you'll be able to go back to it. You can go back to it like in a week, in a month, in 6 months, and see where you were when you wrote your answer and where you are today. And I think that's really powerful. So if you can get the book, I highly recommend it. And also in the back of the book, I've taken all the takeaways and I put like in a glossary. So it's just saying what chapter was that in, that was a good takeaway, or which chapter did she have it. You have all the takeaways from each chapter in the back of the book, which I believe is a powerful tool to have. You can just go back there and see, which ones resonated with you the most. And it's something that I'm really proud of, because it's a very thin book. It's about 83 pages. It's a quick read. As I said, it's a powerful read because it's here to serve others. I didn't write it so much for me in as much as giving that service to other people needing to find their voice in some way in their own life. And so it's a little bit of a workbook within the book, but it's just, as I said, it's one of the chapters I just opened it. It says failing forward. So it's not, each chapter is a story within the book. So it's not like a book about, okay, she lost her voice and all that pain that she went through. I introduce it only in the first chapter, so you get a feeling of what you're probably listening to now in this podcast is about that process of losing it and getting it back. It wasn't really getting it back so much physically. That is all a metaphor for how I gained it back in life. And what I've also done is I created the V.O.I.C.E Blueprint, which you touched on in the bio, to take women along this journey of finding their voice. And it's an acronym. So V.O.I.C.E is an acronym. And each week we go through the letter, what I've placed before them for that. And there's a 6-week course. And then I have the 12-week course, which is a deeper dive. And the whole thing is based on the butterfly effect. So for the butterfly effect, how does that talk about the voice? So the butterfly effect, a butterfly starts out like we all do as an egg. And then it goes into that crawling stage as a caterpillar. From the caterpillar goes into this chrysalis, this shell, only to emerge as a beautiful butterfly to spread its wings and fly. And that's what the V.O.I.C.E Blueprint is based upon, the butterfly effect. And I've always liked butterflies. I was wanting to incorporate it somehow into what I was doing. And it definitely is, because I know that's part of my own journey. It's a huge piece of it. And how we emerge in our own life as we spread our wings and fly. And doesn't mean we don't fall down in the process. Like I said, one of my chapters is failing forward. It's getting back up and how we get back up. And do we let being knocked down keep us down? Or do we pick ourselves back up? And it's having people in your life. That's why I love this, being a transformational coach, because it's all about transformation. And a butterfly is all about transformation. It's a metamorphosis that we go through in life. It's not just from being the physical egg to your child, to your teens, to your adult. It's how we change and transform in our life along our own journey. And even before we got on this podcast, we talked about the journey. I said, oh my gosh. So I grabbed this pillow, which I have right next to me, and it says, Joy
is in the journey.
The journey. So how apropos is that? And this pillow is kind of an interesting little story I'll share. I think it was at Target like several years ago, like maybe 3 years ago, when this part of this journey started. And I'm like, I saw it out of the corner of my eye. I wasn't looking for a pillow. I never even went there for a pillow. And my back was actually turned to it, but out of the corner of my eye, it was on a top shelf. I turned back around. I said, I don't need a pillow. I didn't come here for a pillow. What do you like? Don't, start picking up other things you don't need. But I walked over to it. I said, something's telling me to buy this pillow. I have no idea what. It was way before the book. It was before I became an entrepreneur. I was actually something that I haven't shared, which is I was out of that corporate job that I was in. That was part of my journey too. And that's why I bought this pillow, not even knowing this piece of it yet. And joy really is in the journey. It's something that my best friend, as I said, who's in heaven right now watching over me, she used to say, Renee, you run through life. You always run through life. And then my dad, who's also in heaven, said, stop and smell the roses. And I was always go, 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 go. When I was brought to the screeching halt with the illness that I had, that was a wake-up call to stop running through life and take care of yourself. They say put your own oxygen mask on first. All of these things you can't see outside the picture when you're inside the frame. Everything and all of it was so true with me. You can't see the picture when you're in the frame. You don't see yourself running through life. You just know that you're going, 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 but you're not stopping to help you. So concerned with taking care of everybody else, make sure everybody else is okay. But again, another phrase, you can't pour from an empty cup. My cup broke into a million pieces. I couldn't even pour into my own cup because I was so concerned about everybody else. I wasn't pouring into my cup. I wasn't taking care of me. I was such a people pleaser that I felt if everybody else was happy, then I would be happy. Then I could rest. Let me just take care of them. Then everything will be okay. What happens if you're not okay? Then what? Who takes care of you? You've got to take care of yourself. You've got to do that self-care and that self-love and whatever it is, if it's 10 minutes or 15 minutes or 5 minutes. Do what you can. Take the time and make the time for you. You'll feel much better. You'll feel happier. You'll be able to give to others from your overflow, all of those things. But when you run through life and then you get shut down, things don't happen to you. What happened to me didn't happen to me. It happened for me. And it was a wake-up call. So something else I want to share. It's in one of my chapters too. And I'm going to say it because I'm just going to be real vulnerable. It's not easy. I'm not going to tell everybody on here I figured it all out. Because I think when you figure it out is when God calls you home. One of my chapters is called Old Habits Die Hard. I made promises when I got better. I would never do that again. I would never slip into that behavior. I learned my lesson. I'll be better. I promise God. Who else? What higher power can you promise to? More than yourself, more than your family. I promise God. I'll be a better person. I'll make sure I slow down. I'll take time for me. And let me tell you, I did. Oh, did I ever? I totally did. I took my breaks at work. My best friend said, make sure you take your breaks. Make sure you're drinking enough water. I did everything. I was really good. I was regimented until I wasn't. Those old habits came creeping right back in because that was more natural than for me to do the latter. The former was so easy for me to do because I had done it all my life. When you start to change a behavior and a pattern, they say it takes 21 days to change behavior. I did some research, and that's just 1% of your day. If you take 15 minutes, 1% turns into 15 minutes a day, and do it for 21 days, you can start to incorporate that new behavior. But that's only if you want to. It's taking a chance, making a choice, and making the change.
Beautiful. So I want you to tell me about your best friend. What's her name? Why it's important to have a best friend? What she meant to you? Tell me about your best friend, who's an angel now.
Well, I go by her middle name, so it's Lynn. And she is, I refer to her as Lynn in the book as well. So, you know what, Kimberly, it's having that best friend in your life, having that person that you can really always be yourself with, no matter what. If you're crying, if you're sad, if you're happy, that will share life with you. That's with you for the ups and the downs and the goods and the bads and the sorrows and the joys. And I know not everybody has a best friend in life. I consider myself being blessed to have her. I always felt that when she was here in the physical world, that she was my angel from heaven on earth. And now she's my angel from earth to heaven. And I know she's still with me, supporting me and surrounding me. And I appreciate that very much. And I appreciate her more than my own words can express. And I love her more than I can express. And it's really important to have somebody in your life that's like that. I'm going to share something else my mom, who's still with us, has said so many times. And this is really important to understand. A shared joy is a double joy. A shared sorrow is half a sorrow. So when you have people in your life to support you and to surround you, that give you that unconditional love, that no matter what kind of mood you're in, they're not going to turn their back on you, that don't run out on you when things are tough, but stand by you and are strong when things are tough. That's what she was and always will be to me, like that Wonder Woman, that strength. And I'm going to share something, and I feel my eyes welling up, which I didn't think I was going to share this. I didn't even talk to you about this, but I'm going to share it because I think it's going to hold some value to others. There's this frame that I have a verse from Celine Dion. It's because you loved me. And it meant so much to me with my best friend, even when she was here. And I have her picture on one side of my computer. I'm not going to show it because I always keep her protected. And I have this frame with a verse on the other side. And I'm going to read it. You were my strength when I was weak. You were my voice when I couldn't speak. You were my eyes when I couldn't see. You saw the best there was in me. Lifted me up when I couldn't reach. You gave me faith because you believed. I'm everything I am because you loved me. I would love to meet Celine Dion and let her know what a powerful impact that song has always had on my life. And every time I hear it, it's on my playlist on my phone. And interestingly enough, it pops up randomly. And there are times when I'm thinking of my best friend, I put it on, and then all of a sudden that song pops in. So somehow she knows, I guess she knows that I must be thinking about her at that time. I think of her quite a bit. But this is really true because she was my voice when I couldn't speak. When I was finally able to be with the public again and my voice still was not strong, when we would go out to dinner, she would know what I wanted to order because we went to a lot of the, certain restaurants she knew I liked. And she would know what I ordered at those restaurants. So she would order for me. She would know the things that I wanted. I didn't have to write them down. She knew me so well. And she was my voice when I couldn't speak. She didn't speak for me in the sense of not giving me my voice. She spoke for me because she knew I wasn't able to speak with my voice at the time. So it's really, it's a powerful song. The lyrics are extremely powerful to me. And it's somebody that's having faith in you and believing in you, even when you don't believe in yourself. My mom has always had that faith in me too, when I was going through some rough times in life, and she still does. And she, as I said, she's still with me. And my father, I dedicate the book to him, to my best friend, to both my parents, and to those who have been there on my journey, because it's having people along your journey who believe in you and don't give up on you when you don't give up on yourself.
Yes, and that is a powerful song, and that's beautiful. And I was just curious, I've done this exercise with a friend where we are choosing not to use our voices. In other words, we're not allowed to speak or make noises or write anything down. We just do it just for an exercise to actually learn to communicate. It's a communication exercise, and we've done that going to a restaurant, things like that. But we were doing that just as a way to stretch ourselves or whatever. But you were in it where you really couldn't speak. So those times when you're with your best friend, how if you're with a child or someone who can't speak, how you tend to talk more. How did that communication go? So I'm picturing you're going out to a restaurant, you're still unable to speak, but your friend is able to speak. Are you speaking through your eyes? Are you speaking? How are you communicating? Are you just feeling each other's feelings?
It's a great question. At the time when I was able to be with the public, and again, it was close to 4 months where I was isolated. I started getting my voice back a little bit. And and I wrote this in the book, if you Google your vocal cords, they look like a rubber band. They don't have one next to me, but when you warm them up, if you take a rubber band and you go between your hands and you warm it up, you will have more stretch with it. It will go further. Mm-hmm. My vocal cords, just like any muscle in your body, that's not used, it will atrophy. My vocal cords atrophied because they hadn't been used in 4 months. And they had to be, just like a singer has to do its vocal exercises before they go on stage. They have to rehearse, they have to do warm up, phrases or whatever they need to do to warm their vocal cords up. It is a muscle. And you need to take care of that muscle. So you need to drink water to keep them lubricated. You need to eat properly, so you're not eating too many acidic foods or anything, to make sure that you take care of them. It's a muscle that needs to be tendered, and it tended to, and it is a tender muscle. So when I was out with her, finally, when I had some voice back, it would like come and go like a rubber band. It would go, then it would leave me, then it would like stretching. So as I would start talking, she would be able to know what I was wanting or saying, or I would pick something up, or on a menu I could always point to what I wanted. But it was very interesting. It's somebody who really knows you better than you know yourself. And that's what the definition of a best friend is. Just never turns her back on you and is always there no matter what. You could slam the door on somebody, but guess what? She'll still be there opening it back up for you with open arms. Mm-hmm. So it's important to have people in your life for that love, for that support. They say friends are like family, and they call them framily. I consider her like a sister. She was more than a best friend. I've never had anybody in my life like her since then. And I don't look for that. I don't ever look to replace, because you can't. I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want somebody to replace me. You're irreplaceable. We're all different. Mm-hmm. But wow, I never knew. I never knew what I did to deserve her in my life. I never knew what good that I could have done that was that great to deserve somebody that I thought was that great, that came into my life as my angel, as my Wonder Woman. I couldn't imagine, and I still don't know. But I do know, I feel it was a big gift and a blessing that was bestowed upon me. What I've chosen to do in my life as a transformational coach is pay it forward and serve others in the way that she was there for me. That's why I wrote this book. That's why I created the course. Because I know there are so many out there who are hurting right now, especially with this pandemic, who feel they don't have a voice. Maybe it's that mom at home that's trying to homeschool the kids and taking care of the husband and the household and the laundry and all of this, but has let herself go because she's dealing with so many other things. Maybe it's that corporate woman who feels like she has to always be on, because I too was that corporate woman who tried to always be better and better and better and stronger. And I was leading 5 different teams at once, but felt I was never good enough. Mm-hmm. So I relate to that woman, to that corporate woman, that stay-at-home mom trying to make ends meet with the kids. Maybe she's not even married. Maybe she's just a single mom. I don't want to say just a single mom. Oh my God. Oh my gosh. She is a single mom. That is a Wonder Woman right there. There's the epitome of a Wonder Woman trying to make ends meet. So there's different, I would say, avatars that, my ideal client. So it is that professional woman that is trying to find her voice and feeling like she has to be that woman all the time. Mm-hmm. But yet is still just a woman that doesn't have to always put that hat on, but feels she has to. Because they're always looking to perform, because that's what people always see her as, that performer. But doesn't always have to be that way. Because what about how she really is when she is at home, and her real self? Who is she? When you take off the high heels and you take off the suit, who is she under all of that? And who was I under all of that? So it's that woman too. So finding your voice, it doesn't necessarily mean that you've lost it physically like I did. Some women may have. I actually met a couple of women who came to me after an event that I stood up at, and we had to do our introductories. And 2 of them were in abusive relationships. And they said, Renee, I physically lost my voice because they were abused. And they never used their voice in that relationship. And I was so, so sorry to hear it, that they had been physically abused. They didn't speak up, and they lost their voice. And they probably felt like they couldn't. Because when you're in those relationships, it's that fear. if I speak up, this could happen because this person is in a bad place, but you are afraid.
Mm.
So there's different kinds of women that I serve.
Wow.
But they're all in the same stage as far as not having that voice.
Mm.
That's the commonality of that same woman that I serve.
Wow. So let's say that someone's in pain. It might be physical, like you were, it might be emotional or even mental anguish, but some kind of pain where from their perspective, they can't endure it. It's so painful, like what you went through. It's just so painful. When you were in that position where you were hurting so much, what was some of your self-talk? Was there some self-talk or some thoughts or something that helped you at least take a step away from that pain?
That's a great question. I wish I had a really great answer. I was not spiritual at the time. So it wasn't like, let me do some meditations, let me say affirmations to myself, let me pull out this book, let me listen to this podcast. I wasn't listening to podcasts. I wasn't reading books on spirituality. I wasn't doing affirmations or meditations. I was sitting in hell and I didn't even know how to get out of it. And I was just stewing. Like I said earlier on, I was stewing. I wish I had an answer to this is what you do. When you get in this situation, here's what you do. In hindsight, and hindsight is 2020, and I can say that now, and that's why I created the course now, to help others who are going through this, who have maybe gone through this or are experiencing this in some way in their life right now. Mm-hmm. That's why I made this course with the V.O.I.C.E Blueprint, with the butterfly effect, to be able to serve them in this way, to get from that stuck to unstoppable, to know that there is a way out, that they don't have to endure this kind of pain. And that's why I welcome them to join me on this journey of the course. I would encourage them to get the book. That's a great first step, and then contact me for sure. I would love to speak with them and see if this is a fit that we can go on this journey together, because I really believe there are a lot of women out there and I really want to serve them in this way. And I created this course for them because I know that's who it's meant to serve. Mm-hmm. And people say, well, how do you know this? When you go through it yourself and you can come out the other end, that's when you know. It's not a matter of getting a PhD in this or that. Yes, I have a bachelor's degree in psychology. I was a major in psychology in school. It's not about passing a test. It's about going through the test in life. And how did you do on that test? Quite frankly, I sucked and I failed it. And that's why I lost my voice. That's why I was in so much pain. Mm-hmm. Because as it was happening, I didn't know. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to get out of it. I didn't even know. But coming through to the other side of it, now I do. And that's why I wrote the book. That's why I post questions in the book to the readers, because I didn't want, as I said, to write a book about another author. Here's what she went through. Yay for her. Great. How does it serve me? How can she help me? And that's why I pose those questions. That's why I leave pages to write your answer. That's why I created the course, because I'm here to serve you in this way, and it's a higher way than I ever could have before. Working in corporate America, I always liked serving other people. That's why I was in corporate. I worked in retail, which is a tough job. Mm-hmm. What I loved is being in service and finding out about people and what their needs were. And I learned a lot because I dealt with so many different people, so many different personalities, not just on my teams, and from millennials to, mid-aged, older, from every age on the spectrum I was working with. but it was the customers coming in also who I was working with and how I could support them. So it was always in the service industry, because the first kind of service is when you're serving, and the best kind is when you're serving from your heart. I always say, get out of your head and into your heart. Your heart has a brain of its own. Mm-hmm. And when you serve from a place of love and kindness and caring and compassion, you're serving in a greater way.
That's true. So I was thinking about when you said, you didn't understand how you deserve to have your best friend. And I was thinking about Lynn, and she saw the precious jewel, you, the star, the angel. She saw you, the golden child, when you didn't see it yourself. She saw your value. She saw the beauty of your soul. And she believed in you and kept believing in you until you finally believed in you. And now that you believe in you, you can do that for other people. And you're doing it because a lot of the people you're serving now, they need someone. They really don't know who they are when they take off their shoes at the end of the day, and when they take off the mom hat and the wife hat and the corporate hat or whatever it is they do. They don't know who that person is underneath. They don't even know if that person is valuable. But by taking the layers away and you being there, believing in them for them until they can believe in themselves.
That's really powerful. And I so appreciate your words because I feel them. I actually feel them and I receive them. So thank you. They say when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Yeah. And when the teacher is ready, the student appears, and the student is ready, the teacher appears. They both are there for each other. Mm-hmm. And I believe she stepped away because her purpose was served. Mm-hmm. I know also that from our pain comes our purpose. Mm-hmm. My greatest pain was the pain I endured in losing my voice, and the physical, emotional, and mental pain. But it also became my greatest purpose in life, to do what I'm doing today, in that metamorphosis, in that transformation, to serve others in this way. So this has been a gift that I've been given, and I want to share it with those who are ready to go on this journey. Because I too, when I was in corporate America, became my role. I didn't know who I was. I worked to the bone. I used to look, and I do write this in the book, I look forward to days off, not to take a break and breathe, to do more work. I looked at I would look at the manager's schedule and say, when's my next day off? Okay, I could do this, I could do this, I could do. It wasn't going and doing things for me. It was like, I could do more schedules. If I got up at 8 o'clock, if I worked through this time, I could get this many schedules done. I could do. I was always, that's a ridiculous mindset. Mm-hmm. That was my mindset. I didn't know who Renee was. I became that worker bee. I became that role and didn't know who I was. Finding your voice, my whole platform, is really based on finding yourself. Mm-hmm. Who are you? And who are you really? When you peel back the layers of the onion, who are you? And many out there may not know because they're defined by the role they play. I'm a mom, I'm a teacher, I'm a wife. Mm-hmm. Who are you without that role? God, I don't know. I've been doing it for so long, I really don't know. Mm-hmm. You probably don't know. But I invite you along this journey, along with me, so we can find out together.
Yeah. So if people wanted to work with you, how do they find you? Do you have a website? Just kind of, if you could kind of go over the the services or things that you do kind of all together in this spot right here so everybody can know what you do, what you offer, and like where to find you?
Absolutely. And thank you for that, Kimberly. So I do have a website. It's reneereisch.com. And I have a Calendly link there. I offer 30-minute complimentary consultations. I'd be more than happy to do that for your listeners here. Absolutely. I welcome that because I think that's the first step. So you can also, my book, absolutely, it's on my website as well. So you can find the book there. It's $9.99 on Amazon, 99 cents for the ebook. I wanted to make it really affordable. I know a lot of authors out there like 25, $30 for a book. I'm like, no. It wasn't about the money. It was about giving back to others and helping them and being there along their journey. So that was important to me. And then the other thing you asked, the services. So it's the course. So I have the 2 courses. The one is a 6-week course, and it's a group coaching. If somebody's interested in one-on-one, if they're not comfortable in group, I will certainly discuss that with them if that's something they're interested in doing. The group coaching is a 6-week course, and I have it separated into like 18 people, 15 to 18, because I don't want to have a lot, because I believe that people don't really have a voice when you have a large group coaching. And my whole thing is finding your voice and having a voice. So I'm purposely leaving it to that 15 to 18 women. If they're interested in joining that, please let me know. And yeah, communicate with me, reach out to me. Because if there's, more than that, then I can always separate it into, first group, second group, or however we want to do it. I'm happy to discuss. I want to see what I have first, and then I'll go from there, because I'm going to start one in January 1st. So beginning of January is the next course that's going to be out there. And I'm looking for some special ladies who are interested in joining me on that. And then there's the 12-week one where you take a really deeper dive into it with the butterfly effect. And they're both based on the butterfly effect. The 6-week is really the V.O.I.C.E and then tying it all together at the end. And then the 12-week would be with the butterfly effect. The first stage is the egg, and then you do the V.O.I.C.E in each stage. Then you have the caterpillar, V.O.I.C.E in that. Then you have the chrysalis and the shell, the V.O.I.C.E in that. And then the butterfly and the V.O.I.C.E in that. So it's a much deeper dive than the 6-week, but I certainly would, welcome you into the 6-week course, because that's going to be a great precursor to before you go into the 12-week. If in fact you're interested for that, that would be a great first step. So going to the 6-week course with me and reach out. You can also email me at Renee Reisch. And what I'm going to ask you to do is in the subject line, put voice, #voice. So I'll know that you heard this from the podcast. So we will be able to connect and communicate. Definitely reach out to me. Let me know that you're interested in joining me on that journey. Or if you're looking for that 30-minute consultation that I'm going to offer, you can sign up in my Calendly link on the website.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And now just a personal question, although I've asked you quite a few personal questions this time. What gives you the most happiness and fulfillment in your life right now?
I would say serving others, watching people have the aha moment. Because when you've gone through it and you can impact somebody else in such a way that they are needing it, and you see them going, oh my God, like this is where I'm meant to be, then that just brings everything, it makes everything worth it. The other thing that brings me the most pleasure is spending time with my mom. So I'm grateful that she's still in my life. As I said earlier, my dad passed in 2018. And so I know he's still with me in the spiritual sense, but I'm grateful that I'm able to do what I do, the kind of work I do, and take my computer and Zoom or speak on the phone, whatever somebody's comfortable with. In the coaching, so they know, it will be a Zoom. It will be, we will not be just speaking on the phone for the 6 weeks. It will be on the Zoom platform. But I'm grateful to be spending time with her and to be able to do that. She lives about 35 minutes south of me. So that to me is a gift I can give back to her for all these years. She's given so much to me and our family. It's a blessing to be able to turn around and give her all that love back.
Yes, yes. Thank you. So thank you so much for being on the podcast today and for sharing your very intimate stories and your advice and your wisdom. Just thank you so much.
My sincere pleasure, Kimberly. I want to thank you so much. We connected. You no sooner reached out and said, let's get you on the podcast. It was like a no-brainer for you. And we connected immediately because I also felt that connection with you. Before we saw each other on Zoom, I just felt it. And I believe you did too. And then we got on Zoom and we've just like, we could just talk into the night. It was like you said earlier, like this kindred spirit. Like I've known you before. It was the most natural feeling ever. And that's also a gift. I like attracting those, people say like-minded. It's more than like-minded. I'm going to go a step further. It's like-hearted women.
Yes.
Because like-minded is great, but if everybody had the same mindset, then we wouldn't really be able to pour into each other's cups as much. So like-hearted is what I really like to go by, because that's where we really can pour even more.
Beautiful. Well, I have one last question before we get off the podcast.
Yes.
What is your best advice on living an incredible, amazing life?
Never give up. Never give up. I'm going to give a couple. Be you, because those are hashtags I use all the time. Never give up, be you. Because that was something that my best friend imparted upon me. And enjoy life. We've got this one go around in this physical world that I'm aware of. And if not now, when? What are you waiting for? Don't wait for someone to give you permission to do what you want to do. Give yourself permission. I give you permission. And also something else I want to impart is to live your life for you. Do what makes you happy. Don't live it for somebody else, because this is your life. It's meant to be enjoyed.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Renee.
Thank you.
And we'll talk to you again soon.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.